Solve the quadratic inequality and then write the solution set in interval notation. We have negative x squared minus 9x minus 20, which is less than or equal to negative 2. So here we have our problem. Okay, so the first thing we always want to do is we want to make sure that we have 0 on the right side of the inequality. So the first thing is to add 2 to both sides. Okay, so now we have negative x squared minus 9x minus 18, which is less than or equal to 0. Okay, now the next thing is that we want to make sure that we have a positive 1 as a leading coefficient. So that means we're going to divide each particular term in this inequality by negative 1. Now remember, when you divide by a negative number, that means you need to flip the inequality. So we get x squared plus 9x, because negative 9x divided by negative 1 is positive. Negative 18 divided by negative 1 is positive 18. And then 0 on the right side. So now we have that inequality. And now we're going to determine what are the interval boundaries by writing this as a quadratic equation and then factoring it. So we have x squared plus 9x plus 18, which is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so when we factor, we know that 18 is the value of C, and we know that 9 is the value of B. So what two numbers can we multiply to get positive 18, and we add them together, we get 9? Well, that's 3 times 6. So therefore, we have x plus 3 times x plus 6, and that's equal to 0. Now again, coming back up here, this should be an equal sign because of the fact that we're just trying to factor this to find the interval points. Okay, sorry, the interval boundaries, excuse me. And so now, using the 0 factor property, we have x plus 3 equals 0, or x plus 6 equals 0. And so therefore, x is going to equal negative 3, or x is going to equal negative 6. So now we determine what our interval boundaries are. Okay, so now that we've done that, now we're going to draw our number line, okay, to determine what are our intervals. So we know that we have negative 6, and then we have negative 3. And so there's interval 1. There's interval 2, and then we have interval 3. Remember, on the left side it's negative infinity, on the right side it's positive infinity. So the interval 1 is going to go from negative infinity to negative 6. Interval 2 goes from negative 6 to negative 3. And then interval 3 goes from negative 3 to positive infinity. Okay? So now we're going to test points in those intervals and then use this interval inequality to test those points. So let's take a look at interval number 1. So we're going to choose negative 7. So x is going to equal negative 7. And now let's plug it in. So we have negative 7 squared plus 9 times negative 7 plus 18. We want to see if that's going to be greater than or equal to 0. So negative 7 squared is positive 49. 9 times negative 7 is negative 63. And then plus 18, and we want to see if that's greater than or equal to 0. So let's go ahead and use our calculator to determine that. So we have 49 minus 63 plus 18, and that gives us 4. So is 4 greater than or equal to 0? Well, the answer is true. So therefore, we know it's going to be true for interval number 1. Okay, now for interval number 2, we're going to pick negative 4, since that number is in between those two numbers. So for interval 2, we're going to let x equal negative 4, and now let's plug it in. So we have negative 4 squared plus 9 times negative 4 plus 18. I want to see if that's greater than or equal to 0. Negative 4 squared is positive 16. 9 times negative 4 is negative 36, and that's plus 18. Okay, 16 minus 36 is negative 20, and plus 18 gives us negative 2. And so is negative 2 greater than or equal to 0? Well, it's false. So therefore, we know it's false for interval 2. Okay, let's try interval 3. So we can pick 0. So x is going to equal 0. So we have 0 squared minus 9 times 0 plus 18. And is that greater than or equal to 0? Well, that gives us 0. That gives us 0. So is 18 greater than or equal to 0? Well, the answer is true. So it's true for interval number 3. So what do we know? We know that it's true for interval number 1. And we know it's true for interval number 3. Okay, now the next thing is we need to be careful, okay, because of the fact that this says greater than or equal to. So when we write our solution, we know that it's going to be parentheses negative infinity comma negative 6, but this is going to have a bracket because you're including that value because of the less than or equal to union, and then we have bracket at negative 3 comma positive infinity. So let's go ahead and put that as our answer. So we have parenthesis negative infinity comma negative 6 with a bracket, and then union we have a bracket at negative 3 comma infinity with a parenthesis. Let's check our answer, and there is our result.